My name is Victoria Ashford, and I am 34 years old. I live in Dover Heights, New Jersey, in a house that's far too big for just me, but I insist on keeping it. Sometimes, I think it helps me feel important or noteworthy. I am a chief executive officer of a successful tech company that I built from the ground up. My life revolves around meetings, presentations, and the constant hum of expectation. I am used to being in control, making decisions that affect hundreds of employees, and navigating the exhilarating yet occasionally ruthless world of corporate business. I thought I knew all there was to know about success and the cost that comes with it, but I had no idea that one random encounter would completely unravel my carefully constructed world. Last Tuesday started like any other busy day, with me rushing out of yet another long meeting near Lexington Avenue in New York City. I was lost in thought, my mind consumed with quarterly projections and whether I'd have enough time to fit in a workout before my dinner plans. I held my phone to my ear, listening to my assistant go over some key details when I reached into my bag for my wallet. But when I brought my hand out, I realized it was no longer there. I glanced around briefly before shaking it off. I was too busy. I could deal with it later. As I strode down the sidewalk, immersed in my thoughts and my routine, something unexpected happened. I heard a small, timid voice squeak from behind me. "Excuse me, miss, I think you dropped this." When I turned around, I saw a young girl, no older than 9. Her clothes were ragged, her face dirty, and her hair matted. She held my wallet in her small hands, presenting it to me like a fragile gift. My heart sank. I took the wallet from her, noticing that everything was intact, cash, cards, and even the crumpled receipt from my lunch earlier that day. "Thank you so much," I said, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and pity. Without thinking, I reached into my wallet and pulled out a couple of $100 bills, instinctively offering them to her. I could see the hunger in her eyes. Surely she needed it far more than I did, but she shook her head and disappointment flooded through me. "I do not want money. I just wanted to ask, do you know if there is a way I can go to school? Like any school, even an old one, I just want to learn." Her words hit me like a ton of bricks. Who was this little girl? I learned later that she had not eaten in 2 days, but she hadn't mentioned it. Of course not. She only cared about education. Right there on that busy sidewalk, as the sounds of New York City pulsed around us, I felt a rush of emotions that I thought I had long buried in my expensive suits and high-stakes deals. I froze as tears welled in my eyes, spilling down my cheeks. At that moment, I was transported back to my childhood. I realized that I used to be that girl, vulnerable, overlooked, desperate for a chance to learn and grow. But instead of offering her encouragement or assistance, I stood there crying. I wanted to scream that I understood her plight, but I could not form the words. "Please, I just want help," she continued softly, and her voice cracked a little, breaking the spell. I nodded and promised to help her, but deep down, I wondered how. I wanted to give her a scholarship, ensure she would not go hungry, and provide the support she needed to thrive. Yet, despite my high position and resources, I did not know how to navigate the complexities of education and social services, not for a child in her situation. The encounter plaguing my mind for the rest of the day and well into the night. I found myself in my huge, empty house, staring into the darkness. That girl stayed with me. I could not forget her face or her simple request. She cut through the facade of my life and reminded me of the past I had worked so hard to bury. In the days that followed, I reached out to every organization I could think of. I made calls, sent emails, and attended meetings, desperately searching for a way to help that little girl. I sought out local charities, schools with poverty programs, and even people in my network who might have connections. Most replies were indirect. They discouraged me, telling me that finding a place in school for a homeless child was complicated and would take considerable time. Fed up, I realized I needed to take action myself rather than wait for somebody else's help. In my desperation, I began a campaign to raise awareness. With my company's resources, I pushed a charity initiative, bringing attention to the plight of homeless children in New Jersey and New York. I organized fundraisers, launched social media campaigns, and gave speeches at community centers. Initially, it felt like progress. Reports began to surface hinting at the impact, and I went to bed believing I was on the right track. However, my efforts began to falter. Some people were skeptical, critical of my new mission. "Victoria, you have a business to run," they said, looking down their noses at me. "You cannot throw everything away for a random child you met on the street." I started to second-guess myself. Maybe I was caught up in some foolish fantasy, imagining that I could save her. My colleagues began to whisper behind my back, and the pressure built beyond what I could handle. Then came the final blow. I received a letter from the organization I worked tirelessly with, informing me that they could not assist with the situation any longer. Resources were limited, and while they appreciated my enthusiasm, no guarantees could be made for enrollment for the little girl I had grown to care for. Heartbroken, I felt like a failure, as if the weight of the world rested upon my shoulders, crushing me to the ground. Desperation clawed at me, and I sank into a depression that seemed unreachable. Days blended together. My company's quarterly revenues slipped as I poured every ounce of energy into this mission that was slipping through my fingers, and my employees began to question my leadership. I could not sleep at night, and with each passing moment, I felt more isolated. I was losing the connection to my business, to myself, everything spiraling into chaos. In my darkest hours, I kept thinking about the little girl who had reached out to me. She was sitting somewhere in the city, most likely still hungry and afraid, and here I was, unable to help. I needed to regroup and figure out how to turn my despair into a plan. I remembered the strength I had used to build my company. I had rallied through when everything seemed impossible, fought obstacles, and now I needed to summon that same determination. I made the decision. I would take matters into my own hands, and it would be bold. I knew I had to get face to face with my nemesis, not just the system but every barrier that had kept children like her from succeeding. I put together a final plan, a Hail Mary attempt to raise enough funds to directly enroll her in school, provide adequate resources, and tackle the issue of homelessness. This plan was not just about helping one child. It would challenge the entire system itself. I scheduled a meeting with influential community leaders and prominent figures in education, laying bare the need for reform. I spoke passionately, fighting against the blank stares and guarded expressions. I told them her story, how that little girl had inspired me, and how education should be available to all, regardless of circumstance. The room sparked with the energy of anger, sympathy, and also determination. One by one, they began to speak up, and we brainstormed solutions, loudly and passionately, as the walls of resistance crumbled around us. I launched a scholarship fund in her name, and with each passing hour, more people joined. Donations began pouring in, and I took the message to the public, capturing the attention of local news outlets. People began to connect with the vision, to see the little girl not just as a statistic, but as a future leader in the making. Eventually, we secured enrollment for her at a local school. I flew to the city, wrapping her in my arms, and all I could do was cry tears of joy as I watched her face transform. For the first time, she smiled with hope, excitement, and possibility lighting up her eyes. It was a moment I knew would change her life forever and mine too, but my journey did not end there. I had transformed, and my perception of what it meant to be successful shifted. My company steadied itself. Surprisingly, my bold actions ignited new confidence and trust among my employees. Everyone saw the value of our commitment to a cause far greater than profit margins. In the end, I became an advocate for education reform, fighting tirelessly for those who fell through the cracks. I could finally see that life was not about the zeros in our bank accounts or the title on our business cards. It was about the impact we had on others. Through that little girl, I understood what was truly important, using my platform to make the world a better place for those who most needed it. Life does throw unexpected challenges our way, but sometimes it takes looking back and tapping into your deepest fears and desires to find the path forward. And sometimes those who walk unnoticed along the busy streets have the power to shake the foundations of your life completely, revealing your true purpose in the process. This journey showed me that we are all connected, that when one child rises, we are all elevated. I know this story will stay with me forever, and it will shape everything I do from now on. Because sometimes, true revenge is simply thriving in a world where we have chosen to lift others up.